The Sturmgewehr 44, the game changer that shaped modern warfare. Hey everyone, make sure to subscribe to our channel and drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the legendary Sturmgewehr 44? And do you want to dive deeper into the history of firearms? Let's get into it. A world caught in the chaos of war, where every new invention could tip the scales of victory. In the heart of the Second World War, German engineers unleashed a weapon that didn't just change the battlefield. It rewrote the rules of warfare. Meet the Sturmgewehr 44, STG-44, the grandfather of every assault rifle you've ever heard of. This isn't just a story about a gun. It's about a revolution that sparked a new era of combat and left a mark that's still felt today. So, grab a seat, and let's dive into the epic tale of how the STG-44 came to be, why it was a big deal, and how its legacy lives on in the United States and beyond. Back in the early 20th century, armies had two main types of ammo: rifle rounds and pistol rounds. Rifle rounds packed a punch, piercing armor and flying far, but the rifles that used them, like Germany's Karabiner 98K, were heavy, clunky, and a hassle in close-quarters fights. Pistol rounds, on the other hand, were light and easy to handle, powering submachine guns like the MP-38 and MP-40. But they lacked range and couldn't punch through tough defenses. The German military, riding high on early war successes, wanted a weapon that could bridge the gap, a game-changer that combined power, range, and mobility. Enter the idea of an intermediate cartridge, something stronger than a pistol round but lighter than a rifle round. This wasn't a brand new concept. As early as 1903, an Austrian designer named Mannlicher tinkered with a pistol-carbine combo. And in 1919, an American named Isaac Lewis dreamed up something called the assault phase rifle. But the Germans? They took this idea and ran with it, turning it into a weapon that would redefine warfare. The mastermind, Friedrich Kittel, and his vision. The man behind this revolution was Friedrich Kittel, a brilliant German engineer colonel who worked in the Army Weapons Office from 1935 to 1940. Later, from 1942 to 1944, he led the department responsible for infantry weapons. Under Kittel's watch, Germany churned out iconic designs like the MP-40 submachine gun and the MG-42 machine gun. But his biggest dream? A weapon that could replace rifles, submachine guns, and even light machine guns with one versatile design. Kittel's first step was finding the right ammo. In 1938, a company called Pulte in Magdeburg, Germany, came up with a short cartridge, the 7.92 by 33 mm Kurz. This little powerhouse had a bullet weighing 8.2 grams, zipping out at 694 meters per second, perfect for fights up to 600 meters. This cartridge became the beating heart of the STG-44, but getting from idea to reality was no walk in the park. Early experiments, the Vollmer M35. Before the STG-44 stole the spotlight, German engineers tested the waters with a weapon called the Vollmer M35, designed by Heinrich Vollmer. It used a 7.75 by 40 mm cartridge and promised great range, accuracy, and automatic fire. Sounds awesome, right? Well, there was a catch. The M35 was crazy expensive and way too complex for mass production. It fired up to 1,000 rounds per minute, too fast for practical use, requiring a fancy pneumatic buffer that jacked up costs and made it less reliable. Still, this early attempt proved the intermediate cartridge concept could work. It just needed to be simpler and cheaper. Kittel took these lessons and laid out clear goals for the new weapon. It had to shoot accurately up to 1,000 meters, though 600 was often enough. Be lightweight and easy to carry. Nail both single shots and automatic bursts. Be tough enough for the battlefield and affordable to produce in huge numbers. These specs set the stage for a contract with C.G. Henkel, a weapons company in Suhl, Germany, where a guy named Hugo Schmeisser stepped up to make history. Hugo Schmeisser and the birth of the MKB-42. In 1938, the Army Weapons Office teamed up with C.G. Hennel and Hugo Schmeisser, already famous for designs like the MP-28 and MP-41, took charge of creating an automatic carbine called the Maskin and Carabin, or MKB. By 1940, Schmeisser had a prototype ready. It used a system that redirected propellant gases through a hole in the barrel, a design that would become the gold standard for assault rifles. The prototype showed promise, but it needed work. Meanwhile, another company, Karl Walther, was cooking up its own version. In 1942, both Hennel's MKB-42H and Walther's MKB-42W hit the testing grounds. Walther's model was lighter and more compact, but its complex mechanics didn't hold up in the mud and grime of war. Schmeisser's design, though bulkier, was simpler and tougher. After some tweaks, the Army Weapons Office gave the green light to Hennel's MKB-42H. Frontline feedback. Soldiers loved it. By 1943, the MKB-42 hit the Eastern Front for real-world testing. Soldiers couldn't get enough of it. A junior corporal named Schoenberg wrote in his report, "The MP-43A blows the carabiner 98K out of the water for defense. Most enemies are within 300 meters, and the MP-43 lets you aim precisely. With a 30-round magazine, you've got serious firepower, and reloading is faster than with a rifle. If we swap out the 98K for the MP-43, we just need more sniper rifles for longer ranges." This feedback was gold. The MKB-42 gave soldiers a huge edge, letting them dominate mid-range fights without sacrificing mobility. It was like giving every infantryman the power of a machine gun. The catch? Supplying enough of the new cartridges was a logistical nightmare, and Germany's strained war economy wasn't helping. Drama and deception, from MP-43 to STG-44. Here's where the story gets juicy. Adolf Hitler, of all people, wasn't a fan of the new weapon. He worried it would make millions of rifle rounds sitting in warehouses useless, and the cost of switching to a new cartridge seemed too steep. To get around his objections, Germany's armaments minister, Albert Speer, pulled a sneaky move. He called the weapon a machine pistol, MP-43, to downplay its revolutionary nature. Hitler didn't catch on for 2 months, but by then, the MP-43's success on the battlefield was undeniable. In April 1944, the MP-43 became the MP-44 with no major changes. By October, as Germany's war situation grew dire, Hitler finally embraced the weapon and gave it its iconic name, Sturmgewehr 44, or Storm Rifle. The name wasn't just cool. It captured the weapon's role as a game-changer for infantry assaults and boosted troop morale. No design tweaks were needed, just a new stamp on the side. To really get why the STG-44 was such a big deal, let's zoom out. In the 1940s, Germany's economy was stretched thin. Historians estimate that by 1943, about 60% of Germany's GDP went to the war effort. Producing one STG-44 cost around 70 Reichsmarks, cheaper than an MG-42 machine gun, 250 Reichsmarks, but pricier than a Karabiner 98K, 50 Reichsmarks. The real savings came from versatility. One STG-44 could do the job of multiple weapons, streamlining production and logistics. On the battlefield, the STG-44 gave German infantry a tactical edge. Before, soldiers relied on machine guns for suppressive fire and rifles for precision. The STG-44 did both, shining in urban and forested combat on the Eastern Front. For American audiences, think of it as the M16's great-granddaddy, a weapon that gave regular troops the firepower to hold their own in intense firefights. The STG-44 story didn't end with Germany's defeat in 1945. From 1948 to 1956, East Germany's police used it. Yugoslavia's paratroopers carried it until 1950. But its real legacy is global. After the war, German designer Ludwig Vorgrimler moved to Spain and worked for Setme, creating a rifle based on his experimental STG-45. That design inspired the Heckler and Koch G3, adopted by West Germany's Bundeswehr in 1959. Here's a fun connection for American readers. The STG-44's influence reached the U.S. military. While there's no hard proof that the Soviet AK-47 was a direct copy, its intermediate cartridge and gas-operated system owe a nod to the STG-44. The AK-47, in turn, influenced modern assault rifles like the M16, which became a staple of the U.S. Armed Forces. Today, assault rifles make up a huge chunk of the world's firearms. Some estimate 20% of all small arms trace their roots back to the AK and, indirectly, the STG-44. The STG-44 isn't just a history lesson. It's a reminder of how innovation can change everything. German engineers took a bold idea and made it real, even under the pressure of war. For Americans, this resonates with the spirit of ingenuity that drives companies like Tesla or SpaceX today. The STG-44 shows what's possible when you dare to think differently. Plus, let's be real, firearms are a big part of American culture. Whether you're a history buff, a Second Amendment advocate, or just love a good war story, the STG-44's legacy is part of the DNA of modern rifles like the AR-15. It's a testament to how a single invention can ripple across decades, shaping not just battles, but entire industries. This is just one chapter in the wild world of military tech, full of drama, breakthroughs, and lessons for today. Want to know more about how weapons shaped history? Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below. Tell us, is the STG-44 a true game changer or just another step in the evolution of guns? What other weapons should we cover next? Let's keep the conversation going.